to be. So what we would do is like, okay, this day at this time, we're going to do a writing sprint for half an hour. And we'd actually, her husband's like, are you breathing on the phone again? Because we'd get on the phone and say, okay, I don't want to see you on Facebook. And we'd sit there and try and write. And if we catch the other one on social media, we would yell at each other, hey, I see you're in Facebook, get out of the black hole.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we're passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast during the summer of 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my friends, family, and social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. My goal was to do the same for my listeners, but as I chatted with my guests throughout the first year, I discovered that their personal stories were the most fascinating thing about each episode. Neil Gaiman says, "Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." I now know that sharing our experiences with others helps us defeat our own dragons. It is our stories that connect us to one another. Let's see what wisdom today's guest has to share with us. So today I am interviewing Stacy Bennett. This is episode 29, and the way we met was somehow through Facebook, I think. Since we're both authors, that's how we connected. And now I belong to your Facebook Fun Writers group. So, Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. I have a feeling flash fiction was involved in us meeting.
Oh, well, maybe.
Did you used to write with those flash fiction groups over on Facebook?
No, I'm not a flash fiction fan. I don't do it. I have a friend who unfortunately is now dead, but she used to write flash fiction. So maybe she might have joined one of those groups and I was reading her stuff, and that's how I got connected with you.
I've met a lot of people with the flash fiction crowd. There were a lot of people coming in and out of that crowd. Yeah,
I do. And it's been so long now since you and I have been connected that actually I can't really remember how we met.
When you meet online, it's kind of hard to know exactly when.
Really? But I remember it was around the time that I found your book, your first book, Quest of the Dreamwalker. Mm-hmm. And I got it right away and I loved it. And so we've kind of been communicating ever since then. So usually I ask my guests how they got hooked on stories, but if you want to, we can talk about your books first.
Whichever you would prefer. We could start with stories and segue into the books, or we could start with books.
Okay, that sounds great.
I grew up first of all, I'm old. So there was no internet. We had one TV in the house. You had the radio. You couldn't pick your music unless you bought, records.
Right.
What they now call LP. So it was a different kind of time. There was a lot less to entertain. And books are obviously really easy. My parents used to take us to the library all the time. I distinctly remember reading every horse book in the children's section one summer. Yeah, I was a big horse girl. I loved horses. I didn't own one because I live in suburbia. But I know I read because I got to the end of the summer and I had no other books. I had to switch over to dog books. So, yeah.
I love that.
So, yeah, I was very dedicated, I guess. My brothers are very smart. The whole family pretty much is pretty smart. So we always were reading books and talking about books. So that was definitely something that it was kind of a family thing.
That's cool.
I mean, they like different books than I do, but yeah. So I think that's how I got started with the reading. It was just a really, like people binge Netflix. I used to binge books. That's what we used to do for fun. Mm-hmm. It's summertime, take the book outside. You get too hot, you bring the book inside, back when the only kids' TV was Saturday morning kind of thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you remember that? In the 4:30 movie? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm older than you, so I remember those days. Yeah. Johnny Quest. I used to like Johnny Quest.
Oh, I love Johnny Quest. And Bandit, right?
Right. Yes.
And Haji.
Uh-huh.
Bandit, his dog, and Haji. Yeah, see, I know the ones you're talking about.
Yes.
I think we're the same groups here. So,
yeah.
Well,
that's cool. I didn't read a whole lot of books because I grew up in small towns that didn't have libraries. Most of them didn't have libraries, except for the school library. And so when they had Scholastic Book Fair, I would buy books to read because,
I wasn't allowed to buy books at book fairs because we had a good library and I always wanted them. I coveted those Scholastic Book Fair books and I was never allowed to buy them because we had a library. So it's like, you got a library with thousands of books, you're fine.
Right. Yeah. Well, since we didn't have a library, Mom and Dad would give us we could buy maybe 3 or 4 books. We couldn't buy a whole lot of books, but that was okay. That was good. Yeah. So then how did you segue from loving reading to writing? Because if I remember correctly, you started Quest of the Dreamwalker when you were really young.
I was 18. It was right after high school. I spent a lot of time in my head. So I was just thinking about things, and I probably had seen a TV show about some sort of character, and I had the kernel of the idea for Dreamwalker. So I just started writing it because I'd always been in the advanced classes, and I had written as a kid. Like my dad would encourage me to write little stories and, like The Beagle and the Eagle or whatever. And I don't even remember what was in them, but I know I used to write when I was little, silly little kid stories. So when I had this idea and I had time, I was like, I've got a typewriter sitting right there on my desk. I had this old Brother typewriter and I just started. I mean, an actual regular typewriter,
not even an electric.
Skin. Right. On onion skin, right? Because it was cheaper.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
I think I still have some of the original typed pages that I had done. And I'd say probably about 75% of the way through it before I went off to college. And then, college, you go and you do other things. But I guess it was always in the back of my head. The stories, somehow, the ones that I come up with, they stick in my head. And I blame them for my memory issues because I think I've got 4 worlds in my head, and there's no room for anything else. That's why I don't remember what I had for dinner last night. Because it's just I don't make a lot of notes. I just remember it. But when you ask me, what movie I saw with my daughter 3 months ago, I'm like, I don't know. I think it was Disney, but that's about as good as I can get. So it's a little silly, but so I just had time and I had this idea that wouldn't let me go. So I just started writing it. I guess because I'd read so much, it was entertaining to write it. It was kind of fun. And I had a couple of writing classes in college that were pretty intense as far as really getting down to the nitty-gritty of why the typical business email with all their extra words is not good, and then you start taking other kinds of English classes that talk about closer reading. And it's just a really interesting thing is how you get there. But I wasn't much of a technical writer, I would say, until the last 6 years that I've been working on that part of it.
And I forgot.
So I don't know about you.
You mean my writing? Yeah. I'm really, I didn't write very much at all, except for, academic papers. Cause, when I was getting my undergraduate and I had two majors in my undergraduate, religious studies was my first one. So that was all really difficult writing. And then theater was my other one. And I took all the literature classes that I could take. And so, of course, but I had been analyzing stories for a long time because my father had dyslexia. So he had taught himself to read, but reading was really difficult for him. And my mom loved romance and mysteries. So that's sort of my into it. But we would watch the Sunday night movie. We would watch when they had, I forgot what the first one was called, The Wonderful World of Disney or something. Every Sunday night.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom was on right before it.
Oh, right. Yes, we would watch that too. And so, but the stories, my dad was really good at reading body language and analyzing why people did what they did. And so that sort of led me to theater later because, I could, I understand what their motivation for doing whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. But finally, I did start to get interested in the books that the movies were based on or miniseries were based on. And so I started reading those. And of course, I was reading when I was in high school, but I don't remember getting really hooked until I was a junior or senior in high school. And when I was a senior in high school, I got hooked on British classic literature.
Oh, okay.
So I love reading that. So, but fast forward to, I'm teaching English, even though my degrees are in theater. And I went, I know how to teach these kids how to write.
Yeah.
Even because they had to pass, they had to pass the exams to graduate. And eventually one day I just went, I want to be a writer. And I had this idea for a book about these two women that were connected, but I didn't know quite how that was all going to happen. But so finally, I was really tired of teaching high school. I had been doing it for about 10 or 15 years. So I knew that I could teach at the college. And so I quit teaching full-time and started teaching part-time at the college theater classes and started working on my book. And it took me 7 years because I didn't take any creative writing classes or anything like that in college. So I really didn't know what I was doing, but I sort of followed my nose and eventually I finished it. And, it's not perfect, but I'm moving on to the second one now. So,
yes.
It's sort of I kind of figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up story. That was a long way to say that. And then that led to my blog, which led to this podcast.
I only figured out what I want to do when I grow up about 2 months ago. So, yeah. And sometimes some of us are late bloomers. What can I say?
Oh, I'm definitely a late bloomer. I think I was 53 when I figured out I wanted to stop teaching. And I had been teaching in one capacity or another as a teacher's aide or a teacher since I was 18 years old. So I was like, wow, a long time.
Yeah.
And so is it, you want to be a writer? Is that what you want to be when you grow up?
Actually now, yes. Actually, it's, I think it took a long time to get past you have to be a worker. I think people nowadays don't believe as much in the 9 to 4 and the retirement and that we grew up with. I remember when I actually wanted to go to art school and my dad was like, oh no, creative artists don't make much money. You can't do that, And so it was, I wasn't even writing at that time. So when the writing came along, it was kind of like, well, yeah, that's a hobby. That's for fun. Lately, I'm still doing the same kind of work I always did. I'm not like blowing anything up. Not that I need a lot of money, but it's something that I really want to do as a profession kind of thing. I want to be more serious about it. I want to, because I wrote Dreamwalker and I kind of thought Dreamwalker was going to be a one-off. And then when my ex, who was my husband at the time, was writing his book when he was unemployed, it sort of made me go back to Dreamwalker and I rewrote it and I wrote some more and we put it down until I got divorced and then I picked it back up again. So it seems like it's always come back. But now I have not only those books, which have every time I look at the story, but I've got Mask of Innocence, which hopefully will be out right after the third book. There's going to be another book for Dreamwalker after that. And I've got another series called The Goddess Stone and I've got another book called right now it's titled City of Flowers, but it's a dragon book. So I've got all these stories in my head and I'm like, well, I'm never going to get this all done if it's just a hobby and I do it every time my life blows up and I'm stuck home. So I was like, you know what I really like to do? Wouldn't it be nice if I could get up in the morning, make myself a cup of coffee, write for, 4 or 5 hours, go for a walk, come back, do my social media, do some advertising, do some more writing, talk to people, like have a life.
Yeah, really.
It would be kind of nice if I could do that and just make enough just to live, even if it was, the butt end of Kansas or something. That's okay. I can move there. That's fine. I don't have to be where I'm at now. It's just too expensive where I am right now to be able to do that.
Are you still in New Jersey?
Yes. Yeah. Because I got divorced in New Jersey, I would have had to fight my ex about taking them across state lines. And you kind of get settled in and you get in a kind of rut. So now my kids are 22 and 21. So there's really no reason for me to stay here, but I'm still here because it's sometimes it's hard to pick up and go because now I'm like, I don't know where I would go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could go anywhere. And that's true. I mean, I've lived a lot of places because my ex was a Marine. There are a lot of really lovely places in the world to live, but I don't know where I want to go more than anything else. So we'll have to figure that part out. That's part of this whole revamping my life now that my children are leaving, kind of.
Yes.
I did my due diligence and now I can do what I want to do. So
that's right. Yeah. So I did read, I think I've read all the books that you have published so far. What's the Archer? The title of the
Tales of the Archer is Tales of the Archer. Tales of the Archer has a very interesting history because I don't know, as a blogger, if you've seen it, they have the A to Z blog challenge in April, where every day, except for Sundays, you put up a blog post and they're alphabetical. So let's say you want to do recipes. The first one will be apple pie and the second one will be blueberry muffins because that's your choice theme. And I was doing a lot of flash fiction at the time. And at that time I was setting myself a lot of writing challenges for myself. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could do all 26 days, have them all line up with the alphabet and still tell a single story? And I thought, you know what I could do? I could have stories within a story to help me get all the letters in, because let me tell you, Q and X were difficult, but I did make it. And then when I finished them, I took those blog posts and I made them into a book, which is why it's so short, because they were like 500 word blog posts and there's 26 of them. And then I made them into a book, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time making them something huge because they were never intended to be that. Right. It was more intended to explore the cultural aspect of the Northlands and do this blog post just for fun.
Yes.
So that's where that came from. That's why it's so short.
I love that story. Yeah, that's inspiring.
It's a little embarrassing that it's so short, but it was, usually it's held in April. And if you look for A to Z blog, you should be able to find somebody who's doing it, and then you can hop on and do it with them. And then you would have a hop where you'd go from one site to the next, to the next, to the next, and see what everybody does for the 26 days. So
that's cool.
I had all planned out that I was going to write them all ahead of time, best laid plans. I had about a week done, and then I forget what happened. Something happened in my personal life, probably with my kids. And I ended up a little behind, but I made my blog post every day. I made it, and it still all fit together and hung together. So that was a lot of work.
That's great. Well, I didn't care whether it was long or short. I liked that it told the story of Mara. Is that how you say her name, Mara?
Mara and Archer.
And Reed. Right, Reed. Yeah.
She doesn't call him Archer.
Every time she calls him Reed, I go, who? Oh, yeah.
Who?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But honestly, if you were his girlfriend and then his betrothed and then he leaves you, would you ever call him Archer unless you're pissed at him? No, you probably wouldn't. No, I think she calls him Archer one time.
Yeah.
She always calls him Reed because that's who she knows him by.
Right, exactly. Well, I just got to the part where they are back at the village and they've killed all the giants. And she has consulted Ingrid's spirit to help Corey. So, and I was thinking, I would really like to know Corey's backstory, but maybe that's in the third book.
Well, the third book is called The Hound of Barakan.
Oh,
And
good.
that's where he's from.
Right.
And that's where everybody's going. And it all has to do with the sword, the ironwood sword.
Right.
So I had to have history. I have history. Oh my God, I have histories out the wazoo. This is what I'm saying. I got an entire world in my head. I don't have room for anything else.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, I don't know if you have a paperback of Quest, even the first not the very first that was done was BHC that has the green cover instead of the blue. That doesn't have this, but there is a sword on the spine of the book.
Yeah.
And Call has the same sword, the ironwood sword. And so I even had it in this book. I redid everything inside so that it all matches with Call. So that they're all, that's what I was doing the last week.
Oh, cool.
Doing the insides of
now,
the books
who did your artwork?
BHC, Blue Harvest Creatives, did the green one. This was a friend of ours who's a writer. Her name is Ashley Fontaine. She did this. And then Katie Jennings, who's another writer friend of ours, did Tales. And she did Call of the Huntress for me.
Oh, Call of the Huntress.
Anubis, the old Anubis with the gray Anubis guy, that was another BHC project. So I had to change the cover on that because I don't work with them anymore. And then Audra did the new cover on that one, which I don't have out as a paperback yet. I'm still debating whether I'm going to do it as a paperback or not still. So,
okay, yeah. And so if Call of the Huntress is in a paperback?
Yes. Oh, good. It just got done. I just finished it.
But I was going to say my niece loved Quest of the Dreamwalker, and she has a paperback version. She doesn't like to do ebooks, but she's only about to be 19. And so for her birthday, I thought I'd get her Huntress. So I was going to ask about, Call of the Huntress. And then the third book is about, we get to know more about Curry, right?
Yes. The captain. Good. Yeah. Good. My captain. Originally, when I wrote Dreamwalker, the next book, whatever it was going to be called, was Call of the Huntress and Hound of Barakan started as one book.
Oh, I see.
But it got to be huge because between planning it out and getting to writing it all, I had written Tales. And after I wrote Tales, the fact that they went to Seal Bay meant something completely different than it had the first time. Because now they've got a history going on there. Now it's like, wait, I can't just blip over this because there's a history there. There's stuff going on. So I had to address that. So I didn't want to skip over it. And then it got bigger and bigger. And I'm like, I can't put out an 800-page book. So I split it. I put Call of the Huntress out and then Hound of Barakan. So originally it was supposed to go all the way to the end of Barakan, but it was just too long. There was just no way it was going to make it there. Where we split it, I realized I could use Huntress in the title. And then I was like, well, I've got Dreamwalker and Huntress. So the first one's kind of Kara, this one's kind of Fallon, and the next one will be kind of the captain.
Right.
Now, obviously, they're all participating. It's not just him. But you've got their history now. You know both the girls' history. So now we can do his.
Right.
And you get the whole shebang.
Oh, that's going to be so fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes. It's my favorite part, actually. I do believe that the captain's one's my favorite, but yes.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to, come off very well or not, but he is who he is. I don't know what to tell you. It's funny because I didn't really plan. I don't know about you, but I didn't plan. I don't plan. I get an idea and then it plays over in my head like a movie over and over and over, and you tweak it and you do the directorial thing and then they kind of take on a life of their own. Now, I know I have friends who their characters actually talk to them, but mine don't do that. It's just, I just get to look in on it. And they do their thing, and I just sort of record it. That's what I do. I don't do a whole lot of planning in that sense of, I should have them do this, and then I should have them do that.
Yeah.
So it just sort of developed.
I was telling Audra, I wake up in the morning and I have a scene in my head. And so I go write it down. And then later it's like, oh, okay, I have all these scenes. Now I have to assemble it and make it follow the plot outline. And so I'm kind of to that place and see where holes need to be filled in. And or if something needs to be ejected,
I hate that part, but
yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am with my second novel now.
Yeah, I'm not a very linear writer. I don't write from the beginning to the end. I write the scenes that are the most impactful for me, and then I string them together is what I do. I know Audra sort of writes A to B.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah. I'm not like that.
Well, we do writing sprints together because it's sometimes we're both working full time.
Right.
And we both found that really impinges a lot on everything, even on just the mental clarity it takes to sit down and get into your creative zone, whatever that happens to be. So what we would do is like, okay, this day at this time, we're going to do a writing sprint for half an hour. And we'd actually, her husband's like, are you breathing on the phone again? Because we'd get on the phone and say, okay, I don't want to see you on Facebook. And we'd sit there and try and write. And if we catch the other one on social media, we would yell at each other, hey, I see you're in Facebook, get out of the black hole, and sort of, if you do that on a regular basis, it actually does help. But we do sit there and write with our headsets on.
That's cool.
I like that. Just keeping each other honest.
Yeah, and I think that's neat that you have a writing partner. I wish I had one now. I was telling Audra that both the women that helped me shape the space between time have died now. And so I need someone. I need someone to kind of be my writing partner.
It's a good thing to have. And I think that one of the really good things is that Audra and I are kind of in the same genre. It actually does help. Because we kind of know what each other is shooting for, like when I was reading the alphas of like Chosen or Betrayed, and I'll hit a spot. I'm like, all right, you know what? You got the spark exactly right. I am so shipping these two people. You got it right. This is perfect, or you can tell each other that you don't think it's right, or maybe this is too wordy. Like she was telling me, oh, I don't like that chapter with Fallon and Kara. You start like National Geographic all zoomed out. You got to start in closer. And it helps. Seriously, that was one of the comments I did get from Audra. And she's right. And she's totally right. Sometimes when you're trying to string things together and you don't know where to start, you kind of start, and then they're doing this. And then we get closer. Whereas she's like, no, just start right into it. And then I'd go in and cut like the first 5 paragraphs and see how that felt. So it's really good. And actually Dreamwalker is how I met her too, because I needed a beta reader, and she had just told herself she wasn't doing any more beta reads because they all sucked, and she hated not finishing beta reads, and they were so much work. And I was like, oh, can you beta read my book for me? And I didn't know her, but we were both at BHC, Blue Harvest, at that time. And she read it and she liked it. And so then I beta read Unveiled. And and that's kind of how that whole thing started. And we're like, oh, I like you.
Yes, that's neat.
So fast friends. Yeah.
Yeah, you need somebody that you can trust. And that's how it was with Cappy and Deborah. They could say to me, this part's really slow, and think about this. And then I'd be driving home and the idea would come, Yeah. So then I'd write it, and then they would give their okay, or, tweak it this way, tweak it. And I trusted them. And so I need somebody like that, and I did read Deborah's, and I actually did an audiobook of one of her, it's a middle grade book. And after I did that, I was going to do the audiobook for The Space Between Time. And I went, no, I don't have time for this. Because it took me about, her book is not that long. It's about a dragon too. But it took me a month or more because I read it and then I edited it and, uploaded it to the Find a Way books.
Yep.
So it was very time consuming.
Yeah, but I do think, I know everybody's like, ooh, my book's published, there it is on the shelf. And actually there's a library in town that I happen to be, one of the librarians, a friend of mine, because her daughter's one of my daughter's best friends. And so my books are actually in the library in town. And that was really cool. But I still think having somebody else read my book to me was like the biggest thrill ever. And I think it's because when I was growing up, my dad used to always read me books. And that was like the main thing I connected with my dad on, I think, when I was really little, because my brothers were Boy Scouts and they would play baseball and play hockey. And I would be out there too. But, the littlest girl, I can catch a ball, I can throw a ball, but I wasn't like involved in the game with these kids who were 3, 10, and 13 years older than me. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, because I know I made him read this one dumb little story 100,000 times, and he always would read it for me. And so when I hired Zach to do Dreamwalker, and he does a really great job, and I love his accents, and he did Tales as well, and he's doing Call for me. And he'll do Hound too. I've already told him, I'm like, I can't have any other narrator do my guys, because you are the voice of the captain and of Archer. But it was really like, I couldn't get the smile off my face, because I was just so thrilled to have somebody reading my book back to me. I don't know why. That was like the biggest thing. That was my favorite thing. So
that's cool. Yeah. I'll have to find somebody, but right now I'm in the summer. I'm busy recording as many podcasts as I can before the next semester starts, so that I have the whole year.
Backlog them up. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm working on my novel. I've suspended my blog for a little while so that I can do those two things. So
yeah, I can't do a website and social media and write a book and be a mom and be a worker. And, I just, and make myself healthy dinners and go for a walk. And, it's like, I don't have time. I need to sleep, and sleeping is one of my favorite hobbies. So
I know.
Yeah, we're not giving up the sleep.
Well, and I've backed off of social media pretty much. I don't know. I
got back into it when I did this launch. Yes. And I've met some really great people, and I'm having a lot of fun. And I figure as long as I'm just doing it for fun, because I like it, so I do have to push the books, because they don't sell if I don't put them out there.
Right.
And I hate to pester people, but but I'm better about it now than I was.
Yeah.
I'm better. I only cringe at a couple of my stories, I'm getting a little more confident.
Well, when I read your little snippets from your book, I go, how did she choose those? Because they're so,
I have no idea. They're so little, right?
Yeah, they're so little. And I'm like, I tried to do that, and I'm like, I don't have any really
I'm getting better at it. And what you really need to do is dialogue is very good. And you want to pick a point that you like the 2 sentences. Like, I'm shooting for 2 sentences. That's what I'm shooting for. And I see other authors do this, and I'm looking at them and like, okay, what works about this snippet that they put out, and where can I find it? Which is how I came up with that one ad where Corey feels the pull. Originally, I wasn't going to share that. And I tend to be someone who plays it close to the vest. I really try not to spoil anything, but if I don't spoil anything, then you don't know what it's about and you're not interested. So I have to like let go of it a little bit and give little hints. Yeah.
I'll have to think about that. I'll have to do a better job of that.
I would start with the scenes that you like the best. Yeah. Because there are some scenes that you keep coming back to in your head that you know them and you know them and you know them. Because there's some emotional pull there for you as the writer. That part of the story is meaningful. So you probably have something there that would be worth putting out. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. I'll have to think about that. Wow. Great advice. I'm so excited. Even though my books are not fantasy, really. I mean, they're really more like magical realism is sort of part.
Magical realism
is part of both the historical part and the part in the present. But yeah, I loved Audra's trilogy, her latest trilogy too. So now I'm going to have to go back.
Raven Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Raven Daughter. I liked that a lot.
It was really good. It's really good. I mean, she's one of the people I know who can throw every god, goddess, deity, and form into a pot, and it comes out and makes some sense. I don't know how she does it, but she does. She doesn't have to stick with it. She just mixes them all up. Like, they're all there. Right. All of them are there.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting how she does that. Her bound books are a little bit like that too. And then I had to come up with countries that have differing ideologies and figure the whole thing out. So, and I've done a lot more of that is going to come out in Hound, because when children play nice, you don't notice their differences as much. But when one of them doesn't play nice, that's when things come to a head. And that's what's going to happen. Obviously, we already know that Barakan doesn't play nice.
Right.
They're not in general great people. I'm sure the peasants and the regular people are fine. I mean, that's what you find when you travel the country is every place is nice. Most people are nice. It's just some of the upper echelon folks aren't as nice depending on where you are.
Right.
So I have similar events seen from 2 different countries and things like that. That's where I've moved into with the next book.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
I always like that when you have more than one point of view. You know, this is how this event happened from this point of view, and then this is how the event happened from this point of view. Well, one of the things that I was thinking as I've been reading is one of the characters who is in spirit form. I don't want to give too many spoilers away. I realized after Para Phelan's episode at the trees, the mothers, that maybe the spirit form of her grandmother is not so reliable.
She is who she is. I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
she does have an agenda.
That's
the
what
agenda
I was thinking.
Has a different motivation than the mothers and a different motivation than Sidonius did.
Yeah,
but Fallon is skeptical, of course, because that's kind of her. And she's probably right to be in one sense, in that when you don't grow up with that family, like if you were a princess and you didn't grow up as a princess, would you have the same goals as your parents?
Right.
Probably not.
Or your grandparents. Right. So, yeah. Exactly.
So whoever this person is, they obviously have something they really want her to do. But I don't know if she's going to want to when she finds out. Not that what they're asking her is immoral or illegal or anything like that, but it just may not be in line with her goals, her personal goals.
Yeah, because I teach a class called Dramatic Structure, and I really wanted to have this one movie that we could watch called Laura. It's a classic movie because the narrator is unreliable. You think that he's this really great guy. He was a very close friend of the person that everybody thinks has been murdered. And then you find out, he's not telling the whole truth, So, but then
I had Dear Evan Hansen too, right? Have you ever seen that show, Dear Evan Hansen? It's a Broadway musical. Unreliable. Yes. It's like,
I don't think I've ever seen it. No. So Dear Evan Hansen. So you're big on musicals. I love that. What are your favorite musicals?
Oh, see, you can't ask me what my favorites are because favorites
I know.
change,
I know.
It's hard, but because I grew up with Brigadoon, My Fair Lady, Fiddler on the Roof. That's what my parents listened to all the time. And I do enjoy them, Kiss Me Kate. I don't know if you know Kiss Me Kate. I mean, but Wicked was Wicked. It was totally awesome. And I love Rent. Rent is a great musical, but I also like Mamma Mia, just probably a little cheesy, Kinky Boots is awesome. I think I just like going to a theater to do the song and dance thing. I guess Sweeney Todd is probably one of my favorites. That's less of a dance kind of.
Liked that one too.
I really liked the plot in Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shifting fortunes in it that I really appreciated. That.
And also I'm not really a big on super dark stories, but
but it was just dark enough, right? It was just dark enough. I mean, the song about making meat pies from different people was just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
So,
and the song that, I saw it on when Barry and I first got married, we had Showtime and they had Broadway on Showtime or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And so we saw it and Angela Lansbury was in it. And I loved the song that she sang to the child. Such a sweet song.
That he was so safe, that he was safe.
Right.
The song about him being safe when nothing is safe.
Right. Oh, yeah, really. Yeah.
The movie adaptation with Johnny Depp and Helen Bonham Carter is actually quite good.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Johnny Depp is the barber, which you can imagine how well he did that part. You know, he does have a really good range. And Helen Bonham Carter is, she always surprises me. I don't know why. I shouldn't be surprised by her anymore because she's just very talented.
Yeah.
So
and
I really do like her. Yeah.
Every
I like
time.
Every time it's something different, which is really, really fabulous.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I love that you love musicals. The last one we watched was, we live in Arizona, so we don't fly to New York very often.
Not missing much.
Yeah.
I live in New Jersey. I don't go to New York very often. And really the ones that I've gone to Broadway to see have been because of my daughter.
Yeah. So we watched Hamilton on Disney, and one of my guests recently, so they went to and saw Hamilton on Broadway. And I said, well, we only saw Hamilton on Disney. And he goes, no, if you've seen it on Disney, you've seen it. Because I thought they did a really great job. And it was like, oh, okay, that makes me feel better.
I'm afraid to go see Hamilton because I don't listen that fast. I mean, I used to. When I worked as a medical transcriber, they would give me all the fast doctors and I could do it. But I don't think I could keep up with the plot. And then I would get lost and I would be unhappy. So I'm afraid to go see Hamilton, although everybody says it's fabulous.
Well, that was difficult at first. Eventually, shortly after it started, I kind of got into the rhythm of it. But in the beginning, it was what you said. It's
difficult, yeah.
Because I'm not into rap. And so it took me a little while to get used to it.
Even if I'm into the way rap sounds, I can't always figure out exactly what they're saying, which I know sounds like an old lady, but it's true. I don't think I process words. I mean, I like the sound of it. But if I'm not trying to figure out the words, I like it better than if I'm trying to figure out the words.
So do you have any recommendations for our listeners of books that you really love that you would like to share?
I like so many books and I kind of go in phases. Like I really love the Joan Chaos in Audra's book. I think she really nailed the romance on the head without being, now it's not like Five Flames. If you're into steam, it's not that sort of, can't keep their hands off each other. But she does do a really good job of a very deep connection that's part of their lives. It doesn't take over their life. So, but it's part of it. So I think that's a little fresh, which I think is a good thing. So if you like weeping, you can do her Dragon Call series. Actually, no, it's not all about crying. I'm just gonna say, but she knows how to pull those heartstrings. She definitely does. I was just telling her the other night that part of the reasons I haven't finished her series is because there's one scene that just hit me really hard. Just really hit me hard. I'm like, and I didn't know. I kind of asked her if it gets better, and she wouldn't answer me because she knows I don't usually like spoilers. And so I'm like, well, I can't keep going because I don't want this to. This could get really bad really fast, and I don't want that. So there are some books that I've really loved, and then it does get really bad really fast, and it just is so painful that you're not sure you want to continue.
Yes.
Like I really enjoyed, Shadow and Bone is a big thing because it's on Netflix.
Right.
I liked the series when she first wrote it. I totally adore Six of Crows. If you like personality, they've got the 6 individuals, and she manages in this book about a very complex heist, which is just fantastic with her creativity, but it manages to give you the backstory of everybody without feeling like it's an info dump. I mean, it's real skill. So Six of Crows is definitely a great book to read. And I believe it's YA. So if you have any younger readers, Six of Crows is great. I know it's a big book, but it's really great. Her heist books are great. I really liked Strange the Dreamer because it was
that too.
Right? That was a great book. But at the end, I was so heartbroken. I didn't know if I wanted to read the next one. And then the next book was, I don't know if you've read it, was like a whole, like you just took a left turn at Albuquerque. We're not where we thought we were. And it's good. And it does end well. But at the end of Strange the Dreamer, I didn't know if I wanted to pick up the next book because it just could go so wrong, so completely wrong. And I didn't want to do that because I really loved the book. But Strange the Dreamer is a great book.
And I keep looking for the third, because I thought there was going to be a third book.
There is a third. There is one.
And
I think Lady Taylor put out a third one.
I'll have to go look for it because I loved that series. Yeah.
Did you like Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir?
I haven't read that.
Very good book. Now that one is a little painful as you get further on, but she's excellent writer. I really loved Ember in the Ashes. That was another great book.
I'll have to read it.
And actually, I think they're actually adapting that one to TV now that I think about it.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah, but that's a great book. That's a terrific book too.
Yeah. Well, and I'm kind of weird. I'm a visual person, so I like to watch the thing and then read the book.
Oh, you're a movie first, book later. That's interesting. I think you're the only person I know who's like that.
Yeah, because then I have pictures in my head when I read the book.
Have you noticed that I don't describe my characters much? Mm-hmm. There's like minimal description of most of my characters because I just figure they should look however you want them to look, Yeah. Because they wanted, for one of the promotions, they wanted me to do a dream cast. Like, if this was picked up by TV, who would you have play these? But it's really hard because I can look at an actor and go, no, but I can't tell you why I think no.
Yes.
Because they do fit the description, but no.
Yeah. Right.
It's just,
well, and there's something about their energy maybe that isn't quite right. Or
yeah. Like I've got to see a picture. Like, if I was going to choose, and this is the one that's been stymieing me, is Archer. If I'm going to choose somebody for Archer, he's got to have that genial smile that you just love. Like, he's just like your best buddy. That's him. And if I don't feel that off of him, then no, I don't care how much he looks like he might fit the part. No, he's got to have that easy joviality kind of. I mean, he's not always like that, but that's such a key part of his character.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's funny because I know he's supposed to be the captain's foil, but when I wrote this stuff, I had no idea what any of these things were.
Right.
I look back at my work sometime and I'm like, oh, hey, look, I used that literary device and I didn't even know what I was doing. So, and now that I know what they are, hopefully I can do it better.
You've done all that reading, so you already kind of know.
Yeah, one would think. Yeah,
it's instinctive. You don't have to know the terms.
But it's not like I particularly read good books. I'm notoriously a junk reader, and like B movies are like my thing. There are movies that I love that I know are crappy, but there's something about them that I just love. And my daughter picks on me about it. So I read like a lot of different stuff. It's really hard to have a book that I don't find something in that I can like. I think the ones that I have the hardest time with are the ones that are very political and historical, I'd have to say, because history, unfortunately, is not my thing, which is why I write fantasy. Although I guess I do history in my fantasy. But see, when I do this, like when I talk about the culture and the stories that are going to come out in the next book, I think about them as a cultural thing, not a historical thing.
Right.
Like, there's a difference because like there's a set of books that C.J. Cherryh wrote called the Fated Sun trilogy. And I don't know anybody who's ever heard of it before, but I loved them. They were about an alien brother and sister, and they were the only two ones left of their race. And this guy who was trying to help them survive. So, of course, he's learning all this stuff about because they were a very private culture. He's not allowed in unless he's one of them, kind of thing. So it was really interesting. I really, really enjoyed it, even though it wasn't a shoot 'em up. It wasn't a romance. There was no, none of that, but it was very culturally astute. And I really liked that. And I think I try to bring that to my work every once in a while. Like, with The Archer, can I write a set of mythologies that work for this culture that sound like mythologies? I mean, I don't know if I succeeded, but that was the goal. That was all those tales of Boran and all the things that happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite of Archer's tales from Tales of the Archer?
Oh my gosh. It's been so long since I read the book. But what I remember most was his love for Mara and why he went off, with when his father cursed him when he died, and why he went off with Curry, or went off with his brother to fight. And
he went with Connor, and then Connor died, and he ended up with the captain. Yeah.
And the thing that's so interesting to me is he's so in love with her. So every time they go back to Bear Clan, but he just, for some reason, he can't stay there. And it's because of...
He starts to get a handle on why. And it's not all to do with his dad, but he does, in the end of Call of Hunters, he actually has a moment where he's like, oh, that's why I do that. Because he starts...
I think I've already read. That. Yeah, I think I've already read, but part of that, at least he's kind of figuring it out when they go to kill off the giants and take their village back. But the whole thing about having to go fishing to win her. I mean,
the trails. Yeah. I don't even know where that came from. I almost cut it out. And I was like, no, it's great.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. And I love the character of, what is her name?
Freyna.
I love her.
Yes. I do old crones really well. I don't know. All my old crones are great.
Yeah, she is
I do
great.
love her. I'm so sorry we have to leave her in the north. They're going to say she's not in the story after this. But
well, she won't leave her clan. But because she's got to
see.
She can't leave the sea. And she has to balance out what's his face, the leader.
Finan.
Yeah.
Finan's a muckhound. You know that.
Oh, really? Yeah, he is.
That's what she calls him all the time.
I know. So I'm going to ask you for a little spoiler. Do we to know what happens to Seal Bay? Do we get to know what happens to them in the third book?
They're not in the third book. They don't go back up to because they're all coming. All the Bear Clan folks are coming down unless they want to stay. I mean, obviously, if they've made a relationship, they're going to stay there, or maybe they'll bring extra people. That's fine. However, there is a companion novel in planning stages with Rory and Gar.
Oh, good.
So they may pass through Seal Bay on their way to Eagle's Nest. So
good. Okay, cool.
But yeah, Rory and Gar will have their own adventures. So.
Okay, good. That'll be fun.
Gar everybody loves Gar. So.
Oh my gosh, really? But I'm so glad that she has the wolf now.
Leela, yeah.
Leela, that's her name.
Leela.
Yeah. We just met her. I just met her a little while ago. So
the thing about Gar is he never talked.
Right.
And going forward, given some of the history about the companions, because there's actually a history with the companions that is more than just her grandmother gave it to her, because it's something to do with their lineage. And the companions are supposed to help them by giving them advice. Well, Gar can't give advice. He doesn't give, and he never did because he wasn't earned the way that they're supposed to earn them. He was assigned. So it was very forced because of the situation. Leela also is a little bit forced, but I didn't want to have to replace her. I wanted her to stay because there was originally I was going to replace her. And Audra and I discussed it and we're like, no, we can't because people will get attached. And then no matter how you have them leave, it's a bad thing. And I mean, at least with Gar, he's got his boy and he and the boy can have adventures. And so we're good. We'll just do that. So I wanted her to be able to give advice. So she's learning to talk. So she'll be more vocal as we go forward through the story.
Oh, yeah. So. Well, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Golden Compass. No, what's
the Daemons? Yeah.
The series is dark. His Dark Materials.
Well, it's not exactly like that, but yeah, it's
no, but
and even the true way isn't exactly like that, but I don't know if we're going to do the true way because she's got Leela now and she has no ancestor really to help her. I can tell you that when they get to Korthantir, it's not a good situation.
Well, I didn't think it was going to be.
No.
And also, wasn't Corey's mother from there?
Yes.
I thought so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's a half-breed too.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, and the other thing is that she's had all these experiences, so she can't be she might not be able to be what they want her to be. That's what I keep thinking,
Well, and it's one of those, I mean, I guess.
They.
Yeah, they. I know I tell you, I write myself challenges. I don't know why, but I didn't intend it to be a challenge, but I found it really hard it didn't seem realistic that they would just be okay with this. Mm-hmm. And so it'll happen by the end of the next book. But,
well, I liked that. I mean, I kind of liked it that they're talking to each other in their heads, in their head.
Yeah. Well, they're arguing as per usual. Yeah. But there's value in each of them. And the best case would be to keep the best of both. But that's a difficult road at this point. And the captain will be fairly instrumental in helping with that.
Yeah. And I figured that the grandmother not wanting him to be anywhere near them was wrong. It's going to be wrong.
She somehow has her reasons. She has some very solid reasons for her prejudice. Right. But it's still a prejudice. Yeah. But based upon personal experience. And so, when you find out the whole situation, you're like, yeah, I can kind of see why she would be not real happy with him. And who knows? I don't know if he's ever going to win her over or not. I haven't figured that part out yet. He may be dealing with that for a while, but I don't think he's too worried about it. So that's good.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think Maura and Archer are going to stay with him for one more book, and then they're going home.
Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, good. We get to have more of them because they're
a good couple. They're a really good couple. They're I think they help. And I think she would be a lot of help to Kara and Fallon herself, because she's like her mom. She's a good counselor. She's very reasonable. She's she's got a level head on her and can look at things kind of practically and understand both sides. So I think she would be very helpful. And Violet's coming back too, by the way. You only met her very briefly in Quest. She's Corey's money changer.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Oh, I like her.
Oh, Violet's coming back. Yeah.
Oh, good. I like her.
She's because I know more about her backstory than anybody else. And I'm very excited. She is coming back, but we just didn't get there when I split the book. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yes. So, I like her. Yeah.
Yes. So she'll be back.
That's good. That will be fun. That will be fun.
And the cast of characters is just getting bigger. I'm sorry, but it is.
Oh, no, that's fine with me.
Well, as they get to more countries, you have, I can't have one person in this whole country is the only person you talk to. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that now that most of my marketing stuff is done, I'm going to start trying to post little snippets from the work in progress. Mm-hmm. I'm always really shy about it because I'm afraid it's not worded well. But I think you're going to get to see, snippets of Violet, snippets of this new guy, Captain Ennis, snippets of Summerlin, people that they're going to run into. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Duke Holbrook. Yes, Duke Holbrook is going to be a contender.
That's interesting.
Somebody you'll have to contend. Well, somebody you will contend with because you're not going to like him very much. But you got to have a bad guy.
That's right. Always have to have a bad guy. So. Yeah. Well, I liked Audra's idea of writing a book. Oh no, it's one of my students that I talked to. She's writing a novel and she had this idea of writing it from the villain's point of view.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, what a great
idea." Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Every villain is the hero of their own story. If they thought they were being a villain, unless that was a good thing, or they were a little unstable, which is fine. Mm-hmm. A lot of villains are motivated by things that they find important.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like the grandmother spirit. Mm-hmm. She's kind of a bitch. She's a bit controlling, but there are things that happened to her that made her that way.
Right.
And she totally believes she's doing the right thing.
My niece and I were reading The Children of Blood and Bone, and then the second novel in that series, we were almost at the end of it when the pandemic hit. And it's one of those stories where it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And Ariel and I said, oh, we can't read this right now. We have to wait until the pandemic is over and finish it and then go to the third book.
It does get hard. There are some, and I appreciate the authors who do that. I mean, there are some storylines, you set them down this path and there's really nowhere else to go. I mean,
yes,
it's going to get worse. It just, that's the way the story is taking it. Kind of, you can't always just make them fluff and happiness.
No.
And a lot of times you don't want to, because I have to say, my daughter and I always talk about the attraction of the tortured hero. I mean, we love tortured heroes. The tortured hero is like the bomb, totally the bomb, almost as good as the Darcy-esque shift from between jerk to great guy. There's something about a tortured hero that we all love. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, there are books and things that I can't go that level of dark and I have to stop. Yeah. But I do see where there's value in it for readers. I think sometimes we want to be very invested and feel for them. And that works.
Yeah. My friend Deborah that I was talking about earlier used to say, you have to beat your characters up before you let them resolve stuff.
Well, I mean, if we wanted a boring story, we'd just not read. And I do find it harder. I mean, and maybe this is just me, but I do find it harder to resonate with the happy moments than to resonate with the difficult moments. And I'm not saying just like torture or sadness, but the ones that are difficult, the ones that make them have to make a choice. That hits me. Sometimes like when I wrote The Wedding, I told Audra, I'm like, I don't want to write a wedding. So it was really difficult for me. And I'm not even sure how it came across, but The Wedding was really hard to write because it's harder for me to know what's going to resonate with people on a happy side. You know what I mean? I don't know if you had that issue when you were writing.
No, I have a harder time beating people up. And that's why Deborah said that to me. You need to beat up your characters more. I don't know why that is. Yeah.
Which is funny because ask Audra, I'm a total cream puff in real life. But I do kind of put them in difficult positions.
Well, yes. And
not as bad as some authors, though. I am pretty marshmallowy compared to some authors that I've read. That really put them through the ringer. But people love it. I mean, readers tend to love it. So,
I love what you've done. It's not too much for me. The Children of Blood and Bone, it was getting so bad that I was so dark and so, and the characters were getting so entrenched in their point of view. And that's just
there's no hope.
Right. Yeah. And that's just not me. That's, I was taught by my dad to see other points of view. And so when something happens in real life, when something happens to me and people are treating me a certain way, I go, oh, well, that's really, well, I mean, I might be really upset about it. But when I step back, I go, well, that's really interesting. It could be this, or it could be this, or that's bothering them. And they're just dumping it on me. And I guess that's partly why I gravitate toward the happier moments when I'm writing. But, I have gotten used to it now where, they can't be perfect and they have to deal with these things and they have to have a wrong point of view sometimes.
They have to make the wrong choice every once in a while.
Right.
The wrong thing.
All right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's sort of where I am in my second novel. I need them to make some choices that are going to have these sort of not very good consequences later. And
the hard part is to do that and make it seem reasonable.
Right.
I think I've had at least one review that said, well, isn't that convenient? But I do try to think from the character's point of view, given their tendencies and how they tend to react to things. Would they do this or would they not do this? What is their general, do they often run into danger or away from danger? When Fallon does something stupid because she's running into danger, it makes a lot of sense. When Kara does something stupid because she's running away from danger, that makes sense. But if I had flipped that, and she makes a huge mistake by running into it, that would be difficult to justify. Now you can, if you have some thinking going on, and then she's consciously going against her grain. But you got to make them fallible because none of them are perfect. They don't know what's coming. I mean, I do, but they don't. So I try to make it from as realistic from their point of view. So like sometimes in this middle book, everybody's pretty much reeling from a lot of trauma that happened at the end of the last book. So a lot of them aren't really thinking straight. Braden's not himself. Corey's kind of thinking he's gone nuts. The girls are in a very tough situation. And it's very hard in those situations to make good choices.
Well, and I liked that Sorsha took the girls to the mothers, and then she was so shaken by what happened.
Yeah.
There.
She didn't expect that. No.
She didn't expect that at all. And so it's sort of like her faith is challenged a little bit.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. And that's why she gave the history. I was trying to figure out how I could get that history out of her to the reader. See, now that for me, I was trying to get the reader that history. I don't need another character to know it, but I need the reader to know it. So I was trying to figure out when would she say this? When would she express this? Because, I mean, part of the reason I like the multiple personalities is sometimes I like the reader to be a step ahead, to kind of know that things are okay, or that this is in the offing, or here's a hint for what might be coming later. It might be just a sentence. It might be just a word. I trust my readers. I don't need to spell it all out for them. At least I hope that's not what I'm doing, because I truly believe that the books are better if you have to figure it out a little bit as a reader.
Oh, yeah.
That I want to leave hints. And that was the biggest chore in Quest, is how much reveal is enough to make the ending make sense and not feel like it came out of the blue without giving it away too soon. Now, some people are going to get it earlier than others, and that's fine. But in general, how do you manage that information leak in such a way that it's not an info dump,
right?
And it's subtle enough that it doesn't whack them over the head? Because that's what J.K. Rowling does really well, is her red herrings are spot on. I'll get to the end of one of her books. I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. And I'll go back to all the points of data that I thought I had. And she does this sleight of hand thing. Is she'll tell you something, but then she'll have you look over there because something big is going on over there. And you don't notice it. It's really good. And so if only I could be half that good, that would be wonderful. But that's what I'm trying to do with all these books. And Audrey yells at me all the time that I've got to talk about them the way they are in this book. And that if people are interested about why they're both in the same head, they need to read the first book. So it's kind of hard because I keep not wanting spoilers. But if I don't give them something to be teased by, then nobody picks it up. I just need to find my audience. That's what my narrator keeps saying. He's like, when Dreamwalker finds the audience that belongs with it, it'll do great.
Yes.
So I just need to find the people that it resonates with.
Well, I hope that this helps.
It can't hurt. It can't hurt. And it was really nice to get to talk to you, because I never really get to talk to you like in real time. I'm much better in real time than on text and emails.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that you finally did this, because I have to tell you, you were one of my dream people to have on my
Gosh, I hope I was good enough. Hope I didn't let you down.
Oh, not at all. You gave us this really great insight, you and Audra both, into the writer's mind and the writer's life. So yeah, that was fun.
Okay, good. Until like 2 months ago, I wasn't even willing to really consider myself as someone who's going to be an author. But I don't know. I have flashes of moments where I think about it and think, that wouldn't be so bad. Even if I did it part-time, like if I could cut my job back to half-time and do this the rest of the time, I mean, wouldn't that be fun? I mean, wouldn't everybody want to do that? I don't know why everybody wouldn't want to do that, because I'm loving it. Mask of Innocence is going to be great. City of Flowers really wants to be written, and it's at the back of the line. I got so much to do. I don't have time for a real job.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you so much for being my guest. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I hope we answered all your questions. And, I don't know. I'm not sure how we wind these things up.
I just say thank you for being my guest.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage Woman Chronicles, at sagewoman.life. You can leave a comment there. And remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.